Welcome to our first episode of HeBrews and Talks.
I'm excited.
I'm
First
PE.
Yeah, PE. I'm PSK.
Yeah, I guess I know we announced on IG it's going to be coming soon.
Yeah.
And our handful of followers have been waiting for a while.
Family and friends.
Yeah, but here we are finally.
We should introduce ourselves.
Yeah, a little bit. Yeah, sure. Go ahead.
I'm PSK. I'm 25 years old. I guess you'll figure out more about me as we do future episodes. I mean, most of our viewers right now already know me, but yeah, that's basically it.
All right. Well, I'm PE. I'm older than 25. Married with two boys. I guess same thing. You'll find out more about me, but I guess PSK and I were talking about starting a podcast just to. I know there are a lot of Christian podcasts out there that a lot of people listen to, but we felt like HeBrews and Talks. I guess PSK can explain the name, but the point of our podcast was to just be a place where we can share our faith in a non-confrontational way, just not all up in your face.
Yeah.
Just something more just inviting and warm, a way for unbelievers to hear the gospel, and also for believers to just grow deeper in their faith.
Exactly. We got a lot of family and friends too who live far away or who live in the area but have a lot of questions, and this is just another way for us to reach those family and friends. The name is interesting because it's HeBrews and Talks, and we actually had a little sign, but we had some technical difficulties getting that right, and so our camera's flipped right now, but HeBrews is a play on words between the book of Hebrews and the Bible, which we have opened up right now, which we're going to dive into in a second, but also the two words he and brews, because we love caffeine, in particular a drink called Supercharged from Panera, and sometimes we're going to have coffee, sometimes we'll have Supercharged with us, and we're going to have cool fancy mugs and whatnot for those of you who watch this through YouTube. And Talks because we're just going to talk, mainly between each other, but because it's the first episode, we're introducing our podcast to you.
Yeah.
But yeah. Anyways, let's dive into our devotional. We're going to open up every podcast with a devotional. It's going to be super quick. It's not going to be a full-on Bible study, but we're going to open up with a passage from Hebrews, most, if not all, episodes. The first devotional comes from Hebrews 1, verses 8 and 9. Hebrews 1, 8 and 9 says, "But of the Son, he says, your throne, O God, is forever and ever. The scepter of uprightness is the scepter of your kingdom. You have loved righteousness and hated wickedness. Therefore, your God has anointed you with the oil of gladness beyond your companions." Amen. The author of Hebrews is quoting from the Psalms. And what's interesting is that it's almost word for word, but what Hebrews kind of shows us is that the Psalm is actually referring to the Son of God, which is Jesus Christ. And so verse 8, your throne, O God, is actually referring to the Son, which isn't explicit in the Psalms itself, but the Hebrews is making that known to us. And there's a distinction between verses 8 and 9 because it says, your throne, O God, is forever and ever. And that's referring to Jesus, which the readers during the time of Psalms may not have caught on to at the time, but it says, you have loved righteousness and hated wickedness, therefore God, your God, has anointed you. So it's interesting because verse 8 says, is referring to Jesus as God, but then verse 9 also says, it's referring to your God. And so it's this kind of hint of the Father and the Son, even in the Psalms. And so Hebrews is awesome because Hebrews is all about Jesus. I've once heard it said that if you want to know about Jesus, you go to Hebrews. Hebrews is the source. That's where you find the nature of Jesus. That's how you find deeper meaning and beauty in the person and the name of Jesus. And so that's the first devotional for Hebrews and Talks.
Yeah, and you can, if you want to know Jesus, you can always listen to Hebrews and Talks too.
That's true. Which is why it's called Hebrews and Talks.
I think kind of interesting, here it says your God, right? I think that's something that we want as Christians to be able to confess. Yes, you're my God. It's not my parents' God. It's not someone else's God, but it has some kind of personal relationship, right? We don't
Yeah.
just call him a God, but hey, God, you're my God.
Mm-hmm.
And I think in this day and age, there's like so many things that distract us, that can lead us astray, that can get us going down, following a different, God or gods of, whatever that might look like. And I feel like one of the things, like kind of like getting into a news that I heard a few days ago, like in order for us to really grow in our faith, I feel like it's helpful to have us to focus and like get rid of all the distractions.
Mm.
And one of the really big distractions for us, for young people, even for myself, and I'm not that young anymore, but it's social media.
Yeah.
Right? And
sure.
so actually a few days ago, I read the Senate is trying to pass a bill that would restrict. So if you're under 13, you cannot be on social media, and then between ages of 13 and 17, you need parental consent in order to
Right.
get on social media. I don't know how they would enforce that.
Exactly. Yeah.
But what do you think about that bill?
That's super interesting. I mean, like, I love how you opened with, like, in order to fully make God your personal God, you have to free yourself of distractions, because I love how, like, for those of you who grew up in the church, like us, like, we go on, like, these retreats. And I've heard it once said that, like, retreats are called retreats because you're retreating from the world.
Right.
You're retreating from distractions, and that's the sole advantage that these camps, these retreats have, which is freedom from distractions. And so, like, I know, like, the church that we attend, like, we at retreats we don't allow devices, and like that's a huge way to actually get rid of distractions and disconnect from the world for a little bit, at least, so that you can focus solely on God.
Yeah.
I think the idea is great. Obviously, there's going to be a lot of like pushback on this, not even just from kids, but especially from kids. I honestly think, because I know, like, you and your kids, like, you literally have like no screens in your house. And I think that's beautiful. Like, his kids are still very young, but like they're such good kids, and I actually really credit that to the wisdom of not giving them cell phones or even like iPads or like a TV even in their house. I think it's a great idea, but again, like you said, I don't even know how they would do that.
Yeah, I don't know how they would do that, but I guess even if we just take aside the spiritual aspect, I feel like social media can get very toxic.
Yeah.
Especially for like young minds, where what other kids say has such a big impact.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's hard enough, I guess, listening to like someone in your face saying something bad about you, but someone from like across the world who don't even know you, insulting you,
Mm-hmm.
And those things I think little kids take to heart.
Yeah.
To give an example, like Matthew always gets upset when Andrew, the older one, says like, "Oh, you're this or you're that," and he gets mad. I'm like, Matthew, but that's not true. Just because he said that doesn't make it true. But kids don't think it that way. They take it personal. They think it's true, and then they, I guess, digest that, and then that becomes who they are. And at such a young age where they're trying to figure out who they are, and as they're growing, I think shielding them from social media, I think this might be a good step. I don't know, like I said, how they would come up with how to block under 13-year-olds from getting social media accounts. Because I know a lot of people, when Facebook first came out, it was made for college students only, and they would just fake their birthday.
Right.
So are they gonna have you upload like birth certificate or something?
I was like 73 on Facebook when I was like in 5th grade.
Yeah.
But that's so true. I feel like it would have to be through like the parents, right? Like like when they're creating a social media account, they would have to like have parental controls on there.
Yeah.
When was the first time like you had a cell phone, like a smartphone?
I'm gonna date myself.
Oh,
because,
shoot, you're right.
But it's okay.
I'm willing to share.
It would be it would be like, so when I was in high school, it was like beepers, like legit
really?
beepers, and like beepers. I don't even know if some of our listeners know what a beeper is, right? But someone uses a phone to call it, and it will beep.
It gives you like
and
a
then
notification.
Gives you the number that called, and so then you go to a payphone or another phone, and you dial that number to
That's crazy.
to call them. But in college is when I had my first flip phone. I don't remember when I first had a smartphone. I just remember flip phone. It might be like towards the end of like before I graduated college, probably.
Yeah, I'm trying to think of the year smartphones like became a thing.
I'm guessing probably around like 2005 ish. That's when I graduated. So 2005, maybe six, somewhere around there is when I had a smartphone. But even before a smartphone, it was the BlackBerry that came first.
Right. Yeah, I remember those.
Yeah. That was like the first, I guess, smartphone, and after that, I think the iPhone came out first. But yeah, I feel like getting back to the news, like spiritual aspect too. Even as adults, we spend a lot of time on our phones. Most of the time on our phone is just scrolling through social media.
Yeah.
Right. When we're waiting in line, when we're bored, when we're in an awkward situation, what do? We whip out our phone and just start scrolling through media and just realize like an hour just flies, right? And so I know this law isn't meant to like help your faith, but in essence it can, because it's getting rid of that distraction, especially at a young age, and then you can really focus in on your faith. One reason really that I like doing youth is because they're at that age where they're trying to figure out who they are. And so if they don't have this distraction, and it gives them more time to be in the Word or listen to, HeBrews and Talks or other, podcasts about Christianity, like I think it'll give them distraction free, I guess kind of like a retreat feel for longer periods of time.
Right.
And then when they're mature enough, I think when you get to like 17, 18, I think you're mature enough to handle social media responsibly.
Right.
And then just having them start at that age, I think might be a better idea.
Yeah, and as you were talking, I was thinking about how like, even like biblically speaking, like just because like there are easy ways around the law or like sin or temptation, like trying to like compromise with it, like temptation, like doesn't mean like parameters shouldn't be set. And so in the same way, like I feel like even like for us, we were thinking about like, how would they even do this, or like the complications, the pushback. But like if it's a good cause, like I feel like, and I think it is, just because like you were talking before, like even like mentally, like girls, like specifically, like not specifically, but especially like the effect that social media has on young girls, like it's like negative self-image and comparing themselves and like just distorting like their view on beauty and like self-worth, and it's heartbreaking, honestly. Like I feel like that's one of the biggest things that girls are going through right now, and I think that's because of social media. And I don't know who like came up with this idea for this bill, but honestly I wouldn't be surprised if they were like Christian.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised either. And just piggybacking off of that, the women, girls with like those I guess self-image issues, I think I saw somewhere like most of the pictures that they see of models on Instagram or TikTok or whatever are all pretty much photoshopped anyway. So it's like unachievable beauty that they keep pushing on these girls, and of course they want to achieve something that's unachievable, and they destroy their bodies, they destroy their mental health, emotionally, physically, just in all aspects. So it can be a very toxic place, social media.
For sure.
For guys too. I don't think it's just simply a girl thing, although I think it affects more girls than guys.
Right.
But for guys too, you see like guys with the ripped body and all that, and they look at themselves and they see like they don't measure up. But, like we shouldn't be getting our self-worth from the world or social media. It comes from who God says we are.
Yeah,
right? And,
exactly.
God is the one who gives us that self-worth. And I think if we can get these young kids to be distraction free and use that time to spend time, in God's word and really grow in their faith, I think we'll have much stronger generation.
For sure. Yeah. Are podcasts considered social media?
I don't know.
I feel like it could be.
It could be, but I feel like social media is more like you have like a profile you post. There's like a give and take. This
That's
is more
true.
like just like you're just listening in.
Oh, that's true. That's true. Yeah.
But
I guess it's like media, but like not social media.
yeah.
I see. I don't know. Do you know like how far along they are with that bill?
I don't know. I think they just like proposed it, and I guess they'll vote. I have a feeling it won't pass, but I mean, it would be amazing if it did pass, and I'll be all for it. It'll be another reason for me to tell my kids they can't be on social media
Because it's against the law.
because it's against the law. You might
Right.
go to jail.
That's true.
But yeah, who knows? I guess I'll keep a lookout and see what progress is being made with that.
Mhm.
But I just found that news story kind of interesting. Kind of ties in with today's devotional about just seeing the fact that we're able to say, "Hey, you're my God," and in order to do that, it would be good to be distraction free.
Yeah.
There's so many false gods out there. I know, like in the Bible, they literally worship like golden statues and idols, but now it's like there's a lot of imaginary, right? Even I mean, we're not bowing to like a literal gold statue, but we put, relationships as a god. We put, wealth and fame,
Yeah.
money. It can be even self-image as a god.
Mhm.
There's so many things that we could chase, and just not having social media or access to social media would cut down on a lot of unhealthy things, I feel like.
Yeah, and I think like for me, like the Bible is there's like this I think everyone goes through it, but like this idea that like the Bible is super boring and it's like outdated, but like even in the 2 verses that we read today for the devotional, like there's like it's just so beautiful, it's so profound, like this idea of like dual like how Jesus is fully God before, and then you see that like intertwined within like Psalms and in Hebrews 1, 8 and 9, and like that's captivating, like to actually be able to like sit down and kind of like meditate on it and focus on it and delight in it and be free from distractions.
Yeah.
But like you said, like this generation, like I don't know what the stat is exactly, but like like as each generation goes on, like our attention span shrinks rapidly.
I know.
Like so, like even like our ability to kind of like sit and just like dwell in the words of God, it's like it's dwindling.
Yeah, it's hard.
Yeah.
So, I mean, there are a lot of pros and cons to, social media and like just technology. The big con is the fact that I think like our ability to focus and concentrate on something, our attention span shrinking, just I feel like we get more and more impatient now because like, we expect everything just to be instant. So if there's like even a slight delay, just like, we just get upset. But
exactly.
Yeah. So I guess I know this is our first episode, but
It's also like 11 p.m. because we couldn't get this thing to work.
yeah, we had some technical difficulties, but hopefully by the next episode we'll be up and running full strength. I guess we were too excited to like make some little technical difficulties give us a setback, so we tried to push forward. Really enjoyed, I don't know about our listeners, but really enjoyed today's talk with PSK. I hope that our listeners found it interesting and gained something out of it too.
And I have to confess, like I completely messed up. We had a Google Drive and a doc that had like all of our ideas. Like we had like weeks scheduled ahead of time, and like I accidentally just cleared my entire Google Drive. And so we literally went into this kind of blindfolded. We had this like iPad in front of us, but it's literally like very few like notes. But I think it'd be helpful, like even like what we just talked about, just kind of get people thinking, because like even if this bill doesn't pass, I feel like there are things and ways in which we can actually apply this like practice to our lives. Like simply just open up your screen time, like on your phones. I don't know, do Androids have that? You have an Android, so
yeah, I think they do.
Yeah, so if you look at your screen time, like for me, like I was shocked because like I was actually like comparing my screen time with like kids who were like younger than me in like middle school and high school, and like my screen time was like over theirs, and like I use it for work, but like still like if you're using like 7-8 hours like of screen time like on your phone in your day, like that's pretty distracting from like things that are important.
Right.
So you can still apply this to your life. I feel like no matter what.
And I think even if the bill doesn't pass, I guess like our viewers are young now, but like later on when you become parents, like you have the authority to put these restrictions on your kids, and if you just have a good game plan, and like you reason with your kids. I mean, Andrew's beginning to understand like why we do what we do, and he like kind of sees the value, although you know he finds it unfair because his friends have access to all these things, but I think he sees the benefit too. So it's just something to think about as our young people are planning for the future and think about marriage. You have to think about how you're going to raise your kids, and I think the next generation of parents it'll be even harder.
Yeah,
right? It's going to get harder and harder. So I would say get married faster.
It's very old school.
Yeah, very old school. Get married faster, have kids faster.
So it's easier to raise
So
them
then
up.
your kids will have to deal with the harder parents. But it's something to think about, seriously, for our young viewers who are looking into marriage and having kids is, how am I going to raise my kid in this society that's ever changing, that's always technologically advancing? How can we do it? Because you have the authority. We don't need a bill to tell us, hey, you can't like have your children on social media. You as a parent can just
have that authority.
And you know, you see, like PSK mentioned, I exercise that authority with great joy on our kids.
What is it you said that your kids ask you like what age they can get a phone?
I say 20. Everything's 20. They're like, when can I get an iPad? 20.
But seriously, like something so small as like not getting them a phone, it's like such a tiny thing, but it's like makes a world of a difference. I feel like. Yeah,
and honestly, it is harder on us because then that means we have to fill in that blank time.
Right.
But I think it's worth the effort. I think just if that means that they're shielded and they are less distracted, if that means I have to play soccer with my boys for like 5 hours a day, I mean, you know, it's a good fair trade.
Which I'd assume is even like more beneficial.
Oh yeah, because they're
relationship
outside.
building and exercise and
a
healthy view of like fatherhood and all that.
I guess before we close, we just want to end with like a pretty funny thought like we had while we're just brainstorming a few weeks back, and you know, like in the Bible we read about Samson, and Samson is like one of those well-known characters. Even unbelievers know about the story of Samson, but the Bible doesn't tell us like how
like
tall
his
he was,
characteristics,
his physical traits, and we assume he's like some big guy. But
if hold on, if you don't know who Samson is, Samson, like just real quick, he's like basically a real life superhero. Like you see him like chasing after foxes, and apparently he catches like, what is it, like 30 of them, like
and like ties them together, put
so
their tails on fire and sent them into a town to wreak havoc.
And he has like, with like a single bone, like he'll like just eradicate like enemies of God, like hundreds of them at a time.
He tore apart a lion. I mean,
so he's literally a superhero in the Old Testament times.
So you'd assume like he's some big guy, but PSK and I know we're just thinking, wouldn't it be hilarious if he was actually like really short,
like 4'2"? Like, can you imagine like all the feats he's doing? But he's like this tiny guy. He's like mowing through dudes like twice his size,
and they're all like scared of this little guy.
Like, oh my gosh, it's Samson! Like this like tiny dude emerges, like
tiny dude with like super long hair, right? And like at the end, you know, like he loses his power because he gets his hair cut off, and like he wants his hands to be on the pillars, and one more time, like he prays to God for strength so he can like destroy this, you know, the building that they were in and like all the people in it. Just imagine, like, since he's so small, the pillars are actually like right next to each other, you know, so his arms get raised. And he's just like, rah! And like pushes, and like the whole building just collapses. It's just like,
oh my God.
Just a funny thought, you know.
I think like everyone we've told so far like didn't think it was as funny as us. But, like we died for like so long, like just like talking about this.
I'll be honest. When I told my wife, she didn't even laugh. She was like, "That is so stupid." It might be a guy thing.
It might be a guy thing, maybe. Maybe.
But yeah, I was telling PSK like I don't think I can speak about Samson for a while
without laughing. Have like a serious conversation about Samson.
I think I would like crack up.
The crazy thing is like it's possible. Like it doesn't say anything.
Yeah, we just assume he's some big guy because he was strong, but.
Right.
I mean, who knows? He could have been a really small guy.
Yeah, and we're not saying like he probably is, but like, it's just a funny thought.
Just speculation.
Yeah.
Like, just something just funny to think about. Yeah.
Like 4'2" dude just like running around.
Yeah, destroying everything. Guys scared of him. Yeah, it was pretty funny.
All right, that's episode 1 of HeBrews and Talks.
Yeah, I guess for 1 week, think about. What do you think about Samson?
That's the main thing.
That's the main thing.
That's the main takeaway from HeBrews and Talks episode.
Was he tall or was he short? No. I think just something to chew on too about what we talked about social media.
Yeah.
Maybe just personally apply it to yourself and limit how much you spend on it, and use that extra time to spend in the Word.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. But we thank you to our followers and our few fans who have been waiting for a while. Here's our episode 1. I hope you enjoyed it as much as we enjoyed it.
Yeah, that was fun.
Yeah, that was fun. And next week we'll come back, technical difficulties free.
Resolved.
We'll be full strength.
Mm-hmm. We'll have some sort of caffeine with us.
Yeah.
Hopefully.
All right. Thank you for joining us.
All right,
See you next week.
See ya.
Bye.